In 2019, a single-use powerboat went up for sale at $20 million. No gold plating, no royal pedigree, no record-breaking engine buried in the hull. It was a 38-foot fiberglass speedboat built in Florida back in 1986. But for one decade, this exact silhouette was the most recognizable boat on the planet. The company that built it sold 250,000 boats, then watched its own factory go dark. This is the rise and fall of Wellcraft. It started in 1955 in a small shop in Sarasota, Florida. Two men, Bill Davis and Ed Crafton, were building wooden runabouts by hand, 14-foot, 17-foot and little 12-foot skiffs. Nothing about that workshop suggested a future icon. There was no national brand, no marketing department, just sawdust, salt water and craftsmanship. Then came the material that changed everything. In the early 1960s, Wellcraft switched from wood to molded fiberglass, and that was still a brand new idea on the water. Suddenly they could shape hulls that wood could never hold. Foreign dealers noticed first, ordering Wellcrafts for their clean lines and their clever use of space. A garage operation was quietly going global. By the 1970s, the workshop had become a real builder. A designer named Dick Cole engineered the cathedral hull, then refined it into Wellcraft's patented Airslot design, a shape that stayed planted in choppy water and resisted flipping. Under company president Dick Genth, Wellcraft was running more than 20 different models at once. They had the hulls, they had the volume. What they didn't have yet was a legend. That legend started 2,000 miles away. In 1974, a California engineer named Larry Smith drew up a deep V racing hull and named it the Scarab in honor of a friend's racing cars. Smith wasn't a marketer. He was an offshore racer who had won a national title in the 1960s, and he knew exactly what a fast boat needed to survive open ocean. His Scarab won races almost immediately, so Smith struck a deal with Wellcraft to build it. And in 1975, the first Wellcraft Scarab hit the water. This is where the story takes a turn nobody expected, because the next chapter wasn't written by an engineer. It was written by Hollywood. In 1984, a new television show premiered on NBC. Pastel suits, neon nights, Ferraris, and synthesizers. It was called Miami Vice, and it would rewrite what television looked like. For the first season, the show's detective ran a crisscross stinger across Miami's waterways. But the producers wanted something racier for season 2, and when the stinger's maker pushed them to buy the boats outright instead of leasing, the studio walked. They went looking for a new boat. They went to Wellcraft. What Wellcraft gave them became one of the most famous boats ever filmed. A 38-foot Scarab, finished in a custom colour scheme, with Don Johnson himself helping pick the paint. There were more than 130 hues blended into that finish. Wellcraft handed the production 6 boats for free, and loaned Johnson several more for his own use. From season 2 on, that Scarab was as iconic as the Ferrari and the white Blazer, and the effect on the company was instant. Wellcraft started selling a public version called the Scarab 38 kV Miami Vice Edition, priced at $130,000 in 1986 money. Only 33 were ever built. Orders flooded in across the entire lineup, and sales jumped 21% in a single year. A boat from a Sarasota shop had become a national fantasy. Don Johnson didn't just drive one on camera, he fell in love with the real thing. The actor joined the offshore racing circuit. In 1988, he climbed aboard a 46-foot Wellcraft Scarab called Gentry Eagle, and won the World Superboat Championship at Key West, beating the man whose name was on the rival boat. The fantasy and the reality had merged completely. For Wellcraft, this was the absolute peak. 250,000 boats built by their 40th year, a name everyone knew, and a factory town in Florida running partly on their payroll. But peaks don't last, and the descent began so quietly that almost no one noticed. By 2002, the new corporate owners started pulling the high-performance Scarab line out of Florida. Around 100 workers at the Sarasota plant lost their jobs, and Scarab output dropped to a fraction of what it had been. The bean counters had arrived, and passion for boating was not on the balance sheet. Then in 2007, the rest of it left too. The tooling, the molds, the drawings, all of it was packed up and shipped north to Cadillac, Michigan. The Sarasota factory, the place where it all began, simply went dark. What came next was the part nobody in that old shop could have imagined. In June of 2009, the parent company, Genmar Holdings, filed for bankruptcy. The following year, a California private equity firm bought Wellcraft and its sister brands out of that bankruptcy for $70 million. The empty Sarasota buildings, 28 acres and nearly 400,000 square feet, were sold off separately for just $6.5 million. The brand that built 250,000 boats was now a line item in an auction. In 2014, Wellcraft changed hands again, this time to the French boatbuilder Groupe Beneteau. An American legend, born of salt water and craftsmanship, was now owned in France and built in Michigan. And the iconic Scarab name, largely a memory. The pastel speedboat that defined a decade had no successor on the water. There's a strange final irony to all of this. Just days ago, in June of 2026, Beneteau announced it would close the Cadillac plant and sell off the Scarab brand entirely, after the American boats lost roughly 30 million euros over 2 years. Wellcraft, for now, survives as one of the company's 7 strategic brands. But the factory that inherited the dream is shutting its doors. So picture those 2 boats again. One sits in a climate-controlled facility, listed for the price of a mansion, worshipped by collectors. The other was photographed years ago, a lone Wellcraft trailer abandoned in an empty Michigan parking lot, left exactly where the company walked away. Same name, same hull. 2 completely different endings. That's the story of Wellcraft, a company that built America's dream on the water, sold it to the whole world, and then watched the tide go out.